Welcome to the R video tutorial on file names with loops in R. This is part of Statistics 321 at Virginia Commonwealth University, but anybody can use it. All right, so let's jump in here. We're going to use the mifish.csv dataset, which we've used before. If you don't have it, you can look at the description below, and there's a link to a repository that has all the datasets for this course, so you can easily go and fish them out. Okay, so it's been on my desktop, so I'm going to read it in. And notice what I have is I have species and location. So what I would like to do is break this file apart because this file is actually pretty big. It's 1,217 observations. Maybe I don't want to have one file that has all of the data in it. Maybe I want to break it up by location. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually use a loop here and use the paste command to paste together a program that is going to give me file names that are unique and spit out the data. So the first thing I have to do is figure out what I have to work with. Okay, so let's look at file, let's see here, what do we want to call these? Location names. And I'm going to put in here unique, which is going to give me all the unique values of mifish1 location. Why do I want to do this? Well, if I'm going to loop through all the locations, I need to know which ones they are. So this will give me just a list of those. And if I look at it, location names, and run it, it gives me the location names. And that's all. It doesn't give me everything. It just gives me each one of those. Okay, so then what I can do is n locations. This will tell me how many locations there are. So here I'm just going to do the length of location names. That way I can look and see how many times I need to loop through this thing. So there are 7 location names if I come over here and look in my environment. All right, so I have this, and what I want to do now is I want to extract by location. And then I'm going to call this my data hold because it's just an extraction. Okay, so I'm going to extract from my mifish1 all the rows where I have mifish1 $ location equals, I want to call this location hold, okay? And you'll see what location hold is here in a second, and I want all of the columns. So location hold is going to be what location am I currently at. So this is going to be location. And here I'm going to do names, and it will be the ith one. And I haven't set up my loop yet, but I can do that now. I in 1 to n locations. So if the data sets were to change, like I'm in a production environment, this will automatically adapt to if they started using other locations. It will automatically figure out how many locations there are. I don't have to hard code them in. That means I never have to go back and change them. Okay, so this is going to pull out these. This is going to pull out my data. Notice I didn't create a container. So notice it says I don't know what I is. So keep that in mind. But I didn't create a container. And this is important. Why didn't I create a container? Because actually my container is wherever I put these data sets, right? I'm going to save them someplace. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this file name 1. Okay, this is going to be the file name that I'm going to use when I write this data hold out to a file. Okay, so here I'm going to use the paste command. And what I want to paste it to be mifish. And then maybe I just want the location. So I'm going to just do location hold. I don't need to put a 1 on this, but I do need to put in here what kind of file it's going to be, .csv. And most people forget to stick this on the end. Okay, so here I've got this. What I want to do next is put in here sep equals space. We don't want a space, we just want quote, quote. That means don't put any spaces in. Okay, and then what we can do is we can actually write this out. So I'm going to do write.table. I'm going to write out my data hold and it's going to go to, let's see here, my file name 1. Well, let's look at write.table real quick before we get too far away, because maybe we need to pay attention to the order here. So write.table, let's go over here to our handy dandy help, because we haven't used it in a while. And it'll tell us what we need to put in here. So it needs to be the data set and then the file name. So our data set is data hold. And we need the file name, which is file name 1. And then we have in here, it's going to be a CSV, so the separator is a comma. And do I want row names? And no, I don't want row names. It's going to automatically put them in there, but I'm going to put this as false. So these are the options that I'm setting. I'm going to put data hold in this file name, and then I'm going to separate it with a comma, and I don't want any row names. Okay, and what this is going to do is this is going to iterate through every single one of the locations that we have and spit out 7 separate data files. So let's see if this actually works. I'm going to run all of this all together and see what it does. So it ran something. I don't know what it ran, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to look, since I'm on a Mac here, I'm going to look in Finder, and I put this on the desktop, I believe. And no, I didn't put it on the desktop, which is a problem. Keep this in mind. If you don't know where things are going, you will lose them, especially when you're saving things. So this is a common mistake, and that's why I demonstrated it. So in my paste, I actually can put in my directory. So I'm going to put in here desktop. Okay, and this is where this is going to go. It's going to go to the desktop. This is going to be the name. And now let's see if it puts my 7 files on the desktop. And it ran it. Let me bring up my Finder window. I'm going to go to the desktop. And sure enough, I have these data sets. It says mifishal1.csv, mifishal2.csv. So it actually created 7 data sets for me, automatically puts them on my desktop, so I don't even have to think about it. Now, this is really useful if you're working on network drives and you're doing lots of analyses. You can keep the naming conventions consistent so that any programs that might read this in, it will actually be here as well. Okay, so now we've played with this. This is really, really handy to use. I use it quite often in my own programming because often you need to iterate through a whole bunch of data sets and you need to keep track of them and you need to save the results off. Okay, so this has been the video tutorial on looping through file names. Hopefully you'll move on to the next video.